Hey guys, this is Goku, and on this channel we talk about poker and ideas that can improve your life. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click the subscribe button because I'll be honored to have you here. Today we're gonna jump into our last session on the Poker Snowie. We're gonna analyze the last 63 or 64 hands, or actually we're gonna analyze the errors that happened in these 64 hands, and we're only gonna focus on the ones that were over 1 BBs of EV loss. So let's jump right into it and let's look for ones that are over 1 BB, but also that are not over, I think, 2 something BB, because these were analyzed as blunders and we analyzed them 2 sessions back, so you can watch that video if you find it. Let's move on then. Oh, we've got one here, 1.39 BBs of EV loss. Let's check it out. The hand starts on blinds 25-50. We've got 200 big blind stack and there's an open from under the gun. And we decide to call it with our hand King 10 suited from the middle position. Well, I would tend to agree with the solver that our hand is too weak to call. Instead, it is a borderline decision between folding and bluff raising. I would much rather see a bluff raise here. But on the other hand, this is the beginning stage of the tournament, so people are not really folding. They are playing loosely, and we do not really want to build a big pot or raise and then have to fold. We would rather just call it here, maybe even call if there's a 3-bet behind us. But yeah, try to keep the pot small and see the flop first. We see the big blind calls as well, and the button calls and the small blind and big blind call as well. So we see a 5-handed flop of 9-4 queen with 2 clubs, goes check check, and then the initial raiser continues for a fifth of the pot. So small bet, we of course call it. We've got our gut shot and a backdoor flush draw. The button calls as well. There's a 10 of diamonds on the turn. It goes check check check, and on the king on the river, the small blind, the pre-flop raiser checks. We go for a 40% of the pot bet, and Snowy thinks it's wrong. We should rather check it here 100% of the time. And if we bet, we see Snowy prefers the smaller sizing of a quarter pot bet. And we actually get raised by the big blind, by the button, and we fold. But I think we should also call here fairly often, like the Snowy suggests, because it's just, too small of a raise. And we've got 2 pair. But let's move on. Let's look for another hand. And we've already found it. 1.07 BB of EV loss. We've got 9 jack off on the cutoff. There's a limp from under the gun +1. Another limper on the low jack position. We decide to limp along, and I think it's fine. I think sometimes limping such a hand in a multi-way pot makes sense, but of course we shouldn't do that often. We should rather open it or fold, and this is probably a fold on our stack. Or actually no, we've got 100 big blind stack, so it's fine to open it. Of course, rarely, we should not do that 100% of the time, not even 30% of the time. Maybe something like 10% of the time or 15. We can open this hand here with 2 limpers behind, and we see the button is probably doing just that. He's opening to 4 BBs and gets a call from the big blind, from the 2 limpers, and of course we decide to tag along because why not? I mean, Right now, the pot has been ballooned to a really nice number. There's 1800 in the pot. We've only got 300 to put, and we've got a nice drawing hand. But so it makes sense, and I don't really agree that it's a bad call here. But yeah, we call, and we see a flop of 9-8-3, and it goes check, and one of the pre-flop limp callers decides to bet half pot, and we fold it because we hit a pair, but we hit a top pair, but of course it's not a good hand in a 5-handed pot, which went like this. We were hoping to hit a flush, a straight, or a strong draw. It did not happen, so we're moving along. 2.26 error. I'm not sure if it was analyzed before. Probably was. So let's move on. 8.81 was definitely analyzed. These pocket nines were probably not analyzed. There's not a lot of action, but let's see. We open pocket nines to 2.1 to 2.2 BBs. No, to 2.1. We get 3-bet, 3x, and we decide to fold our hand on 32 big blind stack. This is weird. I do agree with the solver's tip here that it is better to call and occasionally bluff raise, and even pocket fours are a call. But for some reason we decided to fold. Maybe we knew that this was a super tight player and he had a 3-bet of 0% or something, or 1%, and maybe that's why we folded. Maybe it was a misclick, I don't know, but I agree with this reasoning. We should not be folding pocket nines here. We should call and sometimes bluff raise. Let's go to the next hand. Oh, we had 1.2 BBs. Let's see. 200 big blinds deep, blinds 125, 250. There's a limp, and we decide to limp along ace-6 suited. And again, I agree, it's not great to be limping hands like this or any hands, but I sometimes do this if I play on a loose table where I see that I can get away with it, and see some flops with hands like ace-6 suited. But usually we should just open it here instead. But we limp and the cutoff limps as well, and we see a 4-handed flop of queen deuce ace with 2 spades. So the big blind checks. The pre-flop limper bets well, a little over half pot, and we call it here. And Snowy thinks it's wrong to call here, and I'm not sure I agree with this. In a limp pot like this, why not just peel off and see another card? I mean, we've got the top pair. Our ace is often good here, and all other players may fold, and we see this happens. This is exactly what happens. And on the turn of 3 of clubs, it goes check. We bet third of the pot, and we take it down. So yeah, I don't see why we should fold our hand here. I think it's an easy call. But let's move on. Let's look for another one, and we've got it here, 1.64. Again, a hand that ends on the flop, so not a lot to show, but let's see it. 71k on blinds 200, 400, so Once again, pretty deep. Under the gun +1 opens for 3 BBs. We call with ace jack, which is fine. We see a flop of 3-6-5 with all hearts. The preflop raiser continues for 2/3 of the pot, and we fold it here, which is weird. With ace jack and with the jack of hearts, I think we should take another card here. Folding is just too weak. But this is what we did, so let's move on. Let's look for another one. We've got it, 1.49 BBs of EV loss. This hand happens on 500, 1000 blinds. We've got 85k on the small blind. And there's a limp from middle position. We decide to limp our hand as well. All fine. And there's a 4-ace-9 flop with 2 spades. And it goes check, check, check. On the turn, which is 7 of hearts, we decide to lead at this spot. And I actually like this here. We picked up some additional equity. It's a good opportunity to bet. And betting here actually from the small blind, shows big strength. So I'm fine with this here, but Snowy thinks it's a slight mistake, not a big one. And we get raised by the big blind player. The other guy folds, but we of course call it since it's a small raise. And on the 5 of diamonds on the river, we decide to check it. And Snowy thinks it's wrong, which I'm not sure why it thinks is wrong. I mean, it's an interesting one. We see that checking here is 1.5 BBs of EV loss compared to raising. But, well, we did check, and which allowed the solver, the villain, to bluff at the spot and us to win a bigger pot. And I think if we bet here, do we really get called by worse? Would we get called by a 9 here? I mean, sure, we do have 2 pair, and I assume he's got quite a bit of aces and 9s, perhaps, and missed flush draws. Yeah, but yeah, this missed flush draws is probably just not gonna call, and by checking, we give him the opportunity to take a stab with all these hands that he's missed. So I'm quite surprised that Snowy thinks it's an error, it's a wrong, yeah. Whatever, let's move on. Okay, another hand here. 1k, 2k blinds, we've got 90 big blind stack. We open from hijack. We're called by the cutoff and by the button. And we see a flop of deuce 8 king. We check. Cutoff bets 8k. The button folds, and we fold here as well. Is it too weak to fold ace-5 here? Probably it is. We see Snow is actually raising it 100% of the time. And maybe ace-5 suited is a hand that we should indeed raise here. But yeah, this one's also quite interesting. Let's move on. This one we've seen already in the blunders. 1.78. This is an interesting one, but we see that it ends here, so I'm not gonna see a lot. Blinds are 3K, 6K. We've got 260 big blind stack. We open pocket nines from middle position, get 3-bet, and fold. And once again, this is too weak. To fold pocket nines here. I mean, we have to take into account the fact that it's a tournament, it's not a cash game, so it plays a little differently if I think about this. But yeah, we should definitely call here often. We should bluff raise sometimes, and perhaps we should fold also sometimes, depending on what kind of player this villain is. See if we got any more. We've got 23 hands left. There's this one, and once again it's not a lot to see because it's a hand that happens on blind 6K, 12K. We've got a million stack, and the button shoves for 8 BBs, and we fold the Jack 10, and this is a 1.56 error. And thinking about this, it is probably a borderline call for 8 BBs. And like Jack 10 suited off here. But this is something we would have to put into ICMizer or something like that to, you know, shove or fold kind of hand, to analyze. But let's move on. Got this one, 1.21. Blinds are 15K, 30K. We've got 1.6 mil. There's an open from hijack, right? Or low jack, actually. We call it with pocket tens on the button, and yeah, I really don't like it here. We should mostly raise, sometimes call. I don't agree with the line that we should only raise. We should sometimes call, I think. And the big blind calls as well, which is bad and something we wanted to avoid. Goes check, check, and we take a stab at this with pocket tens. It's a small error, but nonetheless it is an error. We get called by the initial raiser. 7 of clubs on the turn, it goes check, check. Deuce of clubs on the river, and once again it goes check, check, and we lose to a pair of jacks, but yeah, thankfully we lost the minimum. Let's see if we got any more errors here. This is a hand we've probably analyzed already in the blunders, but this one's definitely not. 1.41. So let's take a look. 200 big blinds deep on the big blind with 9-10 off. We see a limp from under the gun, and it checks to us, and it folds to us actually. So we see a flop of 5-6-7 with 2 hearts. We check. Villain continues for third of the pot. We call with our gut shot and 2 overs. King of spades, of diamonds on the turn. Goes check, check. And on the 7 of hearts on the river we check. And this is a wrong move because we've got no equity here. So we should take a stab and bluff at the spot. But we don't, so that's why this is an error. We just gave up on the hand, but yeah, we should try and take a stab with this for sure. 1.96, 97. Let's take a look at this one. Blinds around 5,300, and we've got 52k. Again, there's a limp under the gun. Open from middle position player for 3.3 BBs. We see a call from hijack. We call on the cutoff. And small blind 3 bets to 4.5k. Gets 1 call, 2 calls, and we decide to tag along because the odds are just, too good. In spots like that, I will often see the flop because the odds are just too good, right? You got 3,500 to add to a 15.5 pot already, and with 7-8 off, we can hit a dream flop and stack one of these players, but we don't here. We hit 8-3 ace. It goes check, 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 and it actually goes check, check, check all the way up until the river, where the small blind player continues for a small, 30% pot bet, 20% pot bet, and we call this with our pocket eights, with our pair of eights, and see pocket queens. Let's see, this was a blunder for sure. This was a blunder as well. And that's it. We've gone through all our hands. It's been fun using Poker Snowie during these last few days. I really like the software. I especially like this training functionality, because we've played 2 tournaments and we won both of these, so you can check that out if you'd like. The hands that we've imported, actually some of them were from a student of mine who's gone through the course, and I think in the second session of Poker Snowie, or in one of the beginning sessions, we've actually analyzed some of them. So thanks Hannah for sending these, and I really recommend checking out Poker Snowie. I think you guys have seen as well what it looks like, and that it's quite a nice tool to analyze your hands. And if you spend this time, on hand analysis and looking at your errors and blunders that you've made, it will definitely improve your play, your game. So I fully recommend that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. We will check out some other piece of software, or maybe we'll go back to applying GTO or analyzing our hands in Poker Tracker. We'll see about that, but in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a comment if you've got anything on your mind. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, and I will be very happy to see you guys in the next one. Bye. You want to learn how to play poker? Great. You have little or no experience playing poker? No problem. Do you want to learn the fundamentals, the most basic principles that allow you to easily win money when playing with casual players? That's perfect, because this course was created specifically for people like you. My name is Mateusz. I've played over 3 million hands of No Limit Texas Hold'em, and I'd like to teach you how to play poker like a pro. What you will learn in this course are the fundamentals, the ABC of poker, condensed into 21 short and easily digestible lectures. In each lecture, you will learn a different concept which you can test out and practice immediately after watching. Well, do you want to become a good poker player? Do you want to be able to beat recreational players easily? Do you want to have a great time winning at your local home games? Great! Get this course now and start winning at poker.